Hello. So this is lesson 1 in our 6-week course. And the way this is going to work is we are going to learn some basic warm-up exercises. We're going to do some deep breathing exercises. I'm going to show you some of the basic mechanics of the form that we're going to be learning. And to help you build a foundation with the practice, you're going to practice what's on this video for the next 3 days. And then we're going to go into the second video. The second video is going to take off from here. We're going to add a few things. We're going to talk about some more details, and we're going to build on that. But it's so important that we do that 20 minutes a day and getting the repetitions in so we can get to a deep enough level of practice to really experience the feeling of what we're doing so you're ready for that next session. So today, to begin, we're just going to start with some basic warm-up exercises. And in these exercises, they're just meant to kind of get the body loose, get ready for our practice. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them, but we're going to use them fairly often over the next 6 weeks because I want you to start developing the muscle memory and the relaxation that comes through the repetition. So with this first exercise, this arm swinging exercise, you can just do little soft swings front and back like this. The knees are coming up and down. The hands are swinging forward and back. And if you watch me from the side, see how the wrist is relaxed, coming forward here, front and back. Now, if you have healthy shoulders, you can start bringing the hands up a little bit. Maybe over the head. Now remember, the goal is not to see how high we can lift the hands. If you have an injury in the shoulder, this is it. This is all you need to do. You're going to get all the benefit you need from here. Now, as we're doing this, I want you to focus on a nice, deep, slow, relaxed rhythm and breath. So we're visualizing filling up the belly, relaxing the diaphragm here, letting that push down, fill up the belly, fill up the chest, and then exhale, relax and sink into the feet. Watch from the side. All right, next exercise we're going to do, I'm going to show you 2 variations of this. And in the beginning, if you have any knee or hip issues, let's just stand in this narrow horse stance. And I want you to focus on keeping the feet flat on the floor. A lot of times when people start doing this, I see them have the tendency to want to kick the heel up. So when you sit down, we're very planted into the floor, and we're just going to swing the arms left and right. The legs are going up and down. The hands are coming out, shoulders loose, arms loose. Still using that deep, full breath. And if you want to stretch it out a little bit, you can go into a wider stance. And also to just kind of check your relaxation, when you get up at the top, you can kind of shake a little bit. Still full breath. Good. Next one, we start with the hands crossed, the feet together. When we open up the hands, you raise the knee, and when you close the hands, you set it back down. Now, if you have any balance issues or hip issues, you might just roll up to the toe. You don't need to see how high you can pick up the knee. We're doing this to develop a coordination and to get the body moving a little bit. That's it. So you want to do relaxed and loose. So once you have the coordination, just let the hands swing at whatever pace feels relaxed and comfortable to you. Still continue that deep, full breath. Good. Now, let's talk just a minute about learning how to get into a solid stance and maintain that foundation in everything we do. In the Tai Chi form that I'm going to be teaching you, there's only 3 basic stances that are about 90% of the footwork in the form. We have our horse stance, our cat stance, and our bow stance. And being able to transfer from one to the other is very important and is going to help you build a foundation. And it doesn't matter what meditative practice you do, whether it's Tai Chi, Bakwa, Xing Yi, sitting meditation, standing meditation, yoga. If you don't have a good foundation, you're never going to get to high levels of practice. So I really want you to spend the time and develop that root and be able to transition. And you can always modify if you need to a little bit to adjust to an injury or something that you have going on. But I'm going to show you the basics of the stances and the transitions, and then talk a little bit about kind of the strategy behind them as well. So first we have the horse stance. In the horse stance, the feet are going to be about hip width distance apart, the knees are unlocked, the outsides of the feet are parallel. Notice how if you make the insides of the feet parallel, the toes will kind of lightly go out to the sides like this. So we're going to turn the outsides of the feet, the heels out a little bit, and make that outside of your shoe parallel with the other one. Unlock the knees, roll the shoulders back and down, and rest the middle finger on your IT band or the seam of the pants. Softly let go of the tailbone and let it curve in maybe 1 millimeter or 2. Lengthen the spine, relax the chest, and keep the shoulders down and out to the sides. Now once we have this root and you kind of feel your feet getting heavy and sinking into the floor, we want to be able to maintain that foundation through every transition from the beginning to the end of the practice. And so the way that we do that is we build up the repetitions, we start getting more comfortable in transitioning from one stance to the other. So on these first 3 basic stances that you're going to learn, we're going to work on shifting from one to the other. So we have our horse stance, and we're going to pivot the back foot at a 45-degree angle, and then shift into that leg, and move your left foot straight forward so the heel is on line with the toe of the other leg. Now, oftentimes when I see people start doing the cat stance, they'll take their hip width stance, and then when they step forward, it's kind of like they're balancing on a tightrope. That's going to make us unstable. So when you go into your cat stance, we want to try to keep that hip width stance, and that front foot should be light. You should be able to pick up and tap the toe without having to adjust your weight to pick it up. So if you watch me from the side, if I have too much weight in my front foot, I have to do this, rock back to sink into this leg. But if I'm already rooted here, now I can tap this foot and be solid in my upper body. And that's what we're looking for. Then from the cat stance, changing into the bow stance, all you need to do is pick up the lead foot, put the heel down where the ball of the foot was, and shift the weight forward into this posture. Come back into your cat stance, and then back into your horse stance. So if you follow me through, what I want you to do is you're going to pivot the back foot 45, shift into that back foot leg, step forward, heel toe alignment, hip width, touch the ball of the foot on the front leg. You can tap it to make sure that your weight's centered on that back leg, and then slowly put the heel down where the ball of the foot was and shift into your bow stance. In the bow stance, the hips are a little bit turning forward, not so much where the back leg starts to twist, but energetically just coming forward. Shift back into that foot, back into your cat stance, and then back into your horse stance. Now let's do a couple times on both sides. So pivot 45, cat stance hip width, touch the foot, heel toe, step, back to your cat, tap it, back to your horse. Other side, pivot 45, cat stance, bow stance, cat stance, horse stance. Now, simple, but you can't do enough of that. You'll find when we start doing some of these complicated hand movements and gestures and we're moving around that we lose track of our foundation and where our feet is. And you want that to just be smooth and solid, and the only way we're going to get there is start doing a few thousand repetitions of this and really be comfortable in learning how to sink into the floor. And don't let that number scare you, because if you're doing 20 minutes a day on this form, like we all are going to be doing, when you practice just the first couple movements of the form, you're going to get 30, 40 repetitions a day. In 1 week, you've got hundreds of repetitions already. So think about where you're going to be in 6 weeks. So it's going to be no problem to get there, but you just got to put in that time. Now, we're going to look at the first few movements of this form, and this is going to be the core of your ritual practice for these next few days until we get into video 2. And so from here, when we begin the form, we start with the heels lightly touching, middle finger on the seam of the pants, unlock the knees, and then shift forward and back subtly, left and right, and just find that spot that takes the least amount of effort to stand still. Once you're centered, now we're going to run through the first couple movements. So to begin, we think about centering ourselves with our breath. So let's take a few relaxed breaths and feel letting go, sinking into the feet, just like with our stances. And then shift the weight over into your right leg as your right hand opens up about a 45-degree angle in front of the hip. So if I had a 90-degree angle coming from the side of my hip out to the front, my hand is going to move like a crescent or a half moon shape out to the middle of those two lines at 45 degrees. As I sink into that right leg, I softly expand the fingers in my right hand to help root me down on this right side. And then I lift the left foot, step open to about a hip width stance, maybe 8 to 10 inches, depending on your size. And then slowly I'm going to curl and pivot that left foot so the toes are pointing straight towards the wall in front of us. And then my hands are in front of my pockets at a 45-degree angle as I shift into that foot, and now my hands are off to the side. Then, as you pivot on the heel of your right foot, the hands come up, over, and as you press the hands down, visualize you have a ball underneath each hand, and you're pressing them down under the water. So you're using your whole body, relaxing the shoulders, staying soft with all the joints. At the end of the press, your arms are extended. When the fingers fall, the legs slowly rise. And that's the first 4 counts. Let's do that again. So 1, crescent, hand comes out, fingers expand. 2, step to a hip width stance, touch the heel down. 3, turn in, hands out 45. 4, up to center, both feet are parallel. Press the hands down. Arms are extended. Fingers fall, legs rise. Now, one of the most common things I see people do when they first start doing this form, when we talk about the feet, is if you look at me from the side, is when they step, they'll step forward or back, and their feet won't be in line. That won't be a very good horse stance. So in the beginning, what I recommend is maybe at home you have tile or hardwoods, something with a line in it. You can back your heels up to that line, and then every time you go to that count, look down and just make sure that your heel is touching the same line as your other heel, and then you're always going to have that good solid horse stance. You do it that way a few hundred times, you're going to just feel it. And that's, again, the most important part of this practice is we're starting to develop a higher sense of higher feeling and sensitivity and awareness in our body movements. And so by doing this repetition, pretty soon it's just going to be instinctual to where you put your foot. Let's show you from a different angle, so maybe it'd be a little bit easier for you to follow. So again, the heels are lightly touching, middle finger on the seam of the pants. Shift the weight over into the right leg as the right hand opens in that crescent moon shape. Softly spread the fingers towards the floor. Lift the heel, set the heel down. Pivot on the left heel so the toes are pointing towards the wall in front of you. Shift the weight over into that left leg, and then pivot on the right heel so it's parallel to the left as the hands come up about sternum height. And then press the hands down, sink. At the end of the press, fingers fall and the legs rise. Now, these few movements on the form here are what I want you to do for the core of your practice. When you're practicing over the next few days, do a little bit of your warm-ups to kind of get going. Maybe only 3 to 5 minutes, but then for at least 15 minutes of your practice, you're doing this form. We want to get the repetitions. We want to get to a good level of feeling before we start adding too many movements. One of the things that I've seen happen over and over and over again is people will come in and they want to learn the next thing. They want to get the next movement. They get like 30 movements into the form, 15 movements into the form, and they're falling apart. They don't have any foundation. They're feeling like they're failing because they didn't put the work in here. And if you do this correctly, you could do this 100,000 times and never get bored. The trick is to not do like 1, 2, 3, 4. If you do that, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But if every time you do it with the intensity and the focus and really trying to listen to what's going on, there's thousands of things going on in the body. All of the different muscle groups in the hand, the expanding and contracting, the weight shift, moving from one leg to the other, settling down as your abdomen relaxed. How full are you making the lungs when you expand and breathe? And what kind of tension is that putting on in the torso? You start listening and feeling all of these things that are going on. And so that way when you practice, you get to a higher sensitivity, a higher level of feeling when you're doing it. And when you're doing the practice, I would rather see you go so slow that maybe in your 20-minute session, you only get 25, 30 repetitions. That focus will get you so much more. And so that's what I want, guys. I want you to be successful with this practice. So please follow along for these 6 weeks. Do what I say just for 6 weeks. You've taken the step to already come this far and to try out the program. If you listen and you follow along, I guarantee you at the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to want to keep going, and it's going to help you build a great foundation for your future practice. And so thank you so much for watching, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.